Captain Denton, and he's our deputy, he's our captain of the sheriff's department. And he's going to take it over here and talk to you from here on out.
What up, man?
Yeah. Pat him on the back.
That's right. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking a little bit of your time to come listen to us speak. My name is Orlando Nahosa. I go by Hino. 36 years in law enforcement. I was with the city of Denton for a little over 30 years. And then when Sheriff Tracy Murphy got elected, I got smart and went over with him. So I've been at the county now 6 years. I'm the captain over community and media relations. And this is what we do. We come out and speak to the public about whatever people want. I know some of you in the room, so I've been coming to Roads and Ranch even when I was at the Denton Police Department speaking, with the residents here. Today we're going to talk about some senior scams and some scams that are going on that target seniors. I mean, it's nonstop. We also going to talk about our programs that we offer. We offer a lot of programs to the public, and we want y'all to hopefully show up and go. One thing I want to mention real quick before I forget, on your phone, Android or iPhone, if y'all would like to download the Denton County Sheriff's Office app, you can get a lot of information on there. You can see if any of your friends are in jail, because they update it every day. We put our programs on there, like some of those programs that we're going to mention. There's a lot of good information on that app. So if you're not at home on your laptop or anything, you can also, pop up that app and it'll tell you what's going on with the Denton County Sheriff's Office. Like I said, I've only been there 6 years, so I'm the rookie of my group. Like the sheriff likes to say, is that I surround myself with people that know more than I do. So if you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, I'm using stuff that he talks about. Right, Pat? Yes. So if you're the smartest person in the room, you want to walk away and you go to another room, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mary Martin and Joseph Gilbert. They're also part of our community relations team. Okay?
Thank you guys. Thanks for having us today. Just a little bit about me. I started in the jail. I've been at the sheriff's office a little over 20 years, and then I went to patrol and been a bailiff, and then now I'm in community relations. And we have a lot of fun going places and working together and working on projects for the sheriff. So we're just really happy to be here.
I'm Deputy Joseph Gilbert. I've been with the Denton County Sheriff's Office since October. We'll make about 9 years. During that time, I've worked as a jailer. I've worked as a patrol deputy on the streets for several years. While in the jail, I was a member of the Special Operations Response Team, dealing with particularly violent inmates and major disturbances within the jail. I've also worked in the courts very briefly until I came to community relations, which is what I do. So today we'll be going over a lot of internet scams that are going on. Due to technology advancing almost constantly, they're kind of constantly changing, but this will kind of give you a good idea and build a good foundation for awareness with internet and social media skills. And they don't particularly discriminate against a specific age group. It just depends on the type of scam and tactics they're trying to employ. It's going to determine their targeted group or victims. And we'll kind of go into more detail about that. If at any point you all have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and stop me and try to answer as best I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find the answer for you before we leave today. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So the first one we want to go over is the sweepstakes lottery scam. Typically, a dead giveaway if it's a scam is if you have not participated in a lottery and you're notified that you won a lottery. Probably a good indicator that it's a scam. So, but this is very common, especially on social media, where they'll try to say that you won some sort of lottery and they're trying to give you your reward money. And they're saying you need to pay some sort of shipping fee or some sort of excuse to get your credit card and debit card information. And that's all they're trying to obtain. And once they obtain that information, they're going to take whatever money they can, spend it, whatever they want to do. This can happen over text, this can happen over Facebook, really any form of social media that has a messaging system. So this is one to be aware of. I have heard of this sometimes occurring via mail. It's a lot less rare, but it can happen, so just be cautious of that too. You can also get scams in the mail, but for sure it's predominantly done on social media and or portable devices, tablets and phones. The grandparent scam, this doesn't even have to apply to grandparents, this can apply to anybody, but essentially on Facebook, for example, someone could send you a message from a family member or friend's account to make it look like it came from that person. If you ever receive a message from a friend or someone you know on social media requesting for money for something, some kind of assistance, just contact that person directly just to verify that it came from them. Another one that I've seen too is the same thing will happen. It'll be a message from someone you know or a family member of yours, and it will have a link and something like, hey, is this you? And it contains a link. Don't click that link. Be always cautious if you get a link from somebody unless you're expecting it. But the best way to kind of safeguard yourself from this kind of scam is just to contact that person directly and verify that it came from them. Because that is possible that has been a scam that has been a lot more predominant now. It actually happened to me. I didn't fall for it, but I got a message from one of my friends on Facebook a while ago with a link, hey, is this you in this video? And it wasn't from him, it was a scam. So that link was malware, or when I clicked on that link, there's no telling. But essentially, there's all kinds of bad things that can happen if you click that link, up to and including them being able to gain remote access to your device or computer, try to access your personal information, whatever you have saved or stored on that device. So it's just very bad. Always, always, always be cautious on clicking on links that you received, even from someone you know. This can happen via text too, so just be aware of that. Be careful when you click on links. But the main thing to take away from this scam is it can come from someone's account that you know or are friends with. So they have adapted the means to do that. A lot of scammers. And then the secret shopper scam. I like to show a video for this. There's a news article that does a really good job explaining this scam and what can happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Just bear with me for a second.
Scammers need a good story to get money from your wallet. Once they find one that works, well, they use it again and again and again.
Oh yeah, one of their old favorites brings together fake checks and secret shopping. Tonight, WAT 600 Side consumer reporter Don Dare talks with a Knoxville woman who wants her story heard after finding discrepancies in a check that she received, Don.
Yeah, information on the check looked suspicious, and that was confirmed. She was smart when she went to her bank to check. Here's how the secret shopper scam starts. You get a check in the mail with a job offer, including instructions. You're told to deposit the check quickly, then go to your assignment. That first job is to test the store money transfer service of, say, Walmart. As directed, you purchase gift cards from the check you deposited. Then you call and give the numbers on the cards. Wrong move. It's an old scam. What's different about tonight's story is the name used in the letter sent to a Knoxville address. When Kat Pasquaretta went to her mailbox a few weeks ago, she received a priority envelope and its contents caught her attention. Inside, she found a letter with instructions. There was also a cashier's check for a hefty amount.
They gave me a check for $2,150.
The logo reads KSS International, but Kat didn't know at the time the logo had been copied by scammers. More on that in a moment.
It shows that I'm pre-qualified to take part in the KSS International Secret Shopper Program, and they asked me to evaluate the Walmart store.
The letter included guidelines on what to look for and how she was to evaluate the store. But it's the check and how the money was to be spent that she questioned.
and they wanted me to deposit the money. And $300 was for compensation, $50 was for transport and miscellaneous during the assignment, and $1,800 for the gift card shopping purchase. And I also had to complete a survey within 3 days. I have another text.
From text messages, Mrs. Pasquaretta was given instructions on what to do with those gift cards obtained from the check she received and deposited in her account.
You will purchase 3 pieces of Walmart gift cards in the value of $500 each, and 1 more card in the value of $300.
She was then instructed to take a picture of the cards, including their codes, and text that information on. Instead, Mrs. Pasquaretta disobeyed the rules.
I called the bank on the check. The bank was out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It was Pennsylvania State Credit Union. I called the bank, and they had told me, do not deposit the check, the cashier's check.
Having deposited that check and started spending the money, you would have ended up having to pay the money back.
Right, and plus some other fees.
Remember the logo on the letter, KSS International? We did some checking. It is a legitimate mystery shopper business out of Boston, Massachusetts. Founded over 21 years ago, its website says it has gained quite a reputation in scheduling and recruiting evaluators. Its database includes over 500,000 mystery shoppers. But listen to this. Under the important category of payments for its evaluators, in bold letters, it says KSS does not pay shoppers. In other words, you would not be getting one of these phony checks with instructions that you need to buy money cards and send them the codes. Logos are easy to copy. KSS International did not send this letter, but it's likely the instructions in this letter, sent by hoaxers, fooled a lot of unsuspecting people.
It's a scam, a pure scam. I worry that other people in this community or anywhere would get scammed out and lose everything.
The lesson of the story, if anyone ever asks you to deposit a check and then send money, you can bet it's a scam, no matter what they try to tell you on the phone. There are real mystery shopping opportunities as a way to make extra cash, but it is not a full-time job. Legitimate secret shopping never involves putting a check or money order into your account and then wiring it to anyone. And Kristen and Bo, as soon as you get one of these suspicious-looking checks, you know what to do with it?
All right.
You got it.
All right. Don, appreciate it. Yes. Hopefully a lot of people will listen to this one, and if they get something like that, tear it up, throw it.
So that's a pretty common one nowadays, not just with secret shoppers, but really anything. As far as like the letter with the logo attached on it, that's relatively easy to do. You can just Google, say if I wanted to use DACU and make a bogus letter, I can just Google DACU, look up a logo that looks legitimate, copy, paste it onto a Microsoft Word document, and then type whatever I want to type into it. And then print it out and try fold it so that it looks legitimate, and you have a bogus letter. So just be very cautious of that. And then essentially with the secret shopper scam, it's a bogus check that you're getting in the mail. And you're cashing it in, and they want you to buy credit or gift cards, take pictures of it and send it to them so that they can use those cards to purchase whatever they want. And then when the check bounces, the victim's stuck with not like paying the bank back for the bogus check. So be very cautious about that with the secret shopper deal. There are, like I said, that was a legitimate company that does secret shopping, so just be aware of that if you get anything in the mail that looks like that or looks suspicious. In worst case scenario, if you're unsure, just give us a call to our emergency number and ask to speak with a deputy, and we can tell you relatively quickly if this is a scam or not. So, medical health insurance scams and these types of scams, perpetrators may pose as a Medicare representative to get older individuals to give them their personal information, or they'll provide bogus services for elderly individuals. Makeshift mobile clinics and use the personal information they provide to bill Medicare and pocket the money. One thing to always be aware of is guarding your social security number. Whenever you're obtaining medical services, that's something you provide typically is your social security number. And that's what they're trying to do here. If they can get your social security number, they can steal your identity effectively. They can take loans in your name, they can open bank accounts in your name, credit cards in your name, and you're stuck to deal with all the consequences, and it is a nightmare trying to have to battle all that. So if you ever receive a call for a medical service you never asked for, I would just automatically assume it's a scam. One rule of thumb I always kind of tell people is never, ever, under any circumstances, give out your social security number over the phone. Guard that as best as you can, because that is one of the worst things that you can have compromised is your social security number. Funeral scams. This one's a little more kind of alarming, but so when obituaries are posted in newspapers, that's all accessible by the public. So a lot of scammers will read obituaries and call or even physically attend a funeral service of a complete stranger to try to take advantage of the grieving widow or widower. And they'll essentially try to claim that the deceased had outstanding debt. And now they're coming up to you saying, we're going to need you to take care of this, whatever it is. And they're going to try to capitalize on this situation to try to make money. And bet on the family member some familiarity with the deceased's financial situation. Or they might try to claim that they take some sort of role with billing with the funeral arrangements and costs and try to get money from you that way. So just be aware, this one's not as common, but it does happen, so just kind of be aware of this one as well. Natural disaster and charity scams. Always be careful. I try to walk a fine line on this portion because I don't ever want to deter anyone from giving to charities. I think it's an honorable thing, but just be very careful because scammers do take advantage of this, and they'll try to call saying they're with the charity to try and get a donation, and you pay them. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way to check when you get an email from a charity to see if they're legitimate or not?
Yes, there is, and I believe in the next slide I'm going to answer that. So that's a great question. But just keep in mind, and they'll seem very legitimate, and they'll be very relevant depending on what's going on. Like the crisis in Ukraine, they might be trying to call and take donations for that, but they're just trying to get your credit card number so they can access your finances and your money. So one that's been used a lot that I've had to take reports for is the Fallen Officers Foundation, actually. They'll claim they're with the Fallen Officers Foundation, and they're taking donations for family members of officers who were killed in the line of duty, and it's a scam. If they seem pretty assertive, that's usually a giveaway. That's probably a scam. But if you want to know for sure, these are some fact-checking sites that you can go on to determine that this is a legitimate donation service or fundraiser. And I can come back to this slide later if y'all would like, so y'all can kind of see everything. But if you're ever unsure, you can kind of use these to fact check them. Or if you're just uncomfortable with it, just don't do it if you don't know for sure. You can seek out other ways to give donations and give back to your community. Our Daily Bread, Salvation Army, just to name a few. But just always be cautious if you get a call, even if it's for a charity and a good cause, it could be a scam. But these are some other means you can try to fact check to see if it's legitimate or not. So again, scam signs, there's going to be a sense of urgency, there's going to be a time frame, this can be via email, text, phone call, mail, but there's always going to be some sort of time frame or constraint. That's usually a red flag that you're dealing with a scam. There's going to be some sort of secretive, don't tell anyone, like you can't tell anyone, especially if it's like a blackmail scam. That's one that's happened a lot more, where they're claiming they have embarrassing photos of you. They're going to release them in 48 hours unless you pay them, and they're just wanting to get your credit card number, and they don't have anything. They're bluffing and try to get your access to your accounts, and that's when you'll see is it'll be very hush-hush secretive. Then there'll be a little unprofessional, kind of like what I was saying with the charity scams. They might be a little unprofessional, a little pushy, kind of out of character for someone doing a nonprofit kind of charity organization. That's another red flag to look for. For emails and messages from a scam, misspellings and poor grammar is going to be very prevalent. So keep an eye on that. If you notice that, there's a lot of odd misspellings and typos, like an excessive amount of typos, it's probably a scam. That's another thing to look for. And then email addresses are not from a business account. So if it's saying someone claiming to be with Tattoo and they have a personal email, like jessicajones@gmail.com, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It'd be something, what's y'all's business email? DATQ.org. It would be like DATQ.org. So if they're claiming to be with DATQ, but they have a personal Gmail account, that's also kind of a red flag to look for. So how to protect yourself, use caution, only send money and personal information to people you know. Never put your banking information or credit card in your email. This is an important one because emails are probably one of the more easily hackable or compromising electronic services. That's very common for people that, yes ma'am.
So if you're setting up an account with a legitimate company,
Yes.
even like Amazon, you end up putting in your credit card information.
Correct.
Is that also?
Yeah, and I get sometimes it's unavoidable, like for circumstances like that. One thing I would just do is once you send it, you get confirmation that they received it, delete that email, and then delete it in your deleted box. So it's completely erased from the email account. That's one precautionary measure you can take. I understand the real world here, it's sometimes you gotta send out your card information for different services because you can do almost everything online now, shopping. But just be cautious if you do. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, if you're putting, I've worked in the industry with credit cards, they won't ask you to email your card number if it's legitimate. It has to go through a secure encrypted site.
Well, yeah, it has like a little, doesn't it have like a little emblem or something that shows it's secure? Lock or
But
something.
they have, what he was saying about not ever sending your card information.
Like in a letter, like, yeah, so if you're typing your daughter and then you give her your
Yeah.
card information in the body of a letter, you don't ever want to do that.
You don't do charity or shopping online, they're not going to ask that.
Yeah.
Don't give that.
Yeah, I'm just talking strictly with an email account sending letters back and forth. Because emails are typically the most easily hackable. I've had to change my password on my email several times because I've noticed suspicious activity on it. So just don't put any personal information in your email account outside of the name. Just be cautious of that. Communicate, reach out and talk about any calls or emails you are unsure about. Like I said, you can call us on our non-emergency number if you believe you're dealing with a scam. Feel free to call us. We'd rather call you beforehand to make sure it's legitimate than call you after the fact to take a fraud report because you got scammed out of your money and your assets. So if you're ever unsure, you can give us a call and we can usually pretty quickly determine if you're dealing with a scam or not. Be vigilant, fact check phone calls, texts, and emails with a reliable source. Most banks have apps on your phone that you can download. I highly recommend doing that so you're not just checking your statement once a month in the mail. You can daily check your statement on your phone and constantly keep track of it. So as soon as you notice some fraudulent or suspicious spending, you can notify your bank and cancel that card and then get depending on the bank's policy, you get refunded that one fraudulent transaction. That is a lot easier than having to go through months and months and months of statements trying to figure out which transactions are fraudulent and which are legitimate ones. So I recommend getting some sort of banking app on your phone so you can keep track of your banking statement on a daily basis. So that's always one thing to be aware of. Robocalls.
Excuse me, question.
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Are you referring to using your phone versus your computer? Is there like a difference between the two? I do very little on my phone. I
Sure.
feel more comfortable on the computer.
Like using, like checking your bank account on your
Yeah.
computer? Yeah, I'm sure they offer services. You can do that just as well as you could on your phone app.
But there's no reason to use your phone unless it's because people are always just using phones.
Yeah, I just use it as an example because that's how I check my bank accounts. I have an app on my phone, but if you prefer to check on your computer, that's perfectly fine. Main thing is just kind of keeping up to date on your bank account more often and monitoring transactions on your accounts, so you can kind of catch on to things.
Your banks, and I know DAC offers this as well, but like I have alerts on my bank account, and so I'll get a text message from my bank saying, hey, is this a valid, is this a valid payment request transaction? Do you want us to pay this? And I click like, no, I have no idea who in Australia is needing $500.
Yep.
So there's different things, so I would really work closely with your bank and how your accounts are set up. And do y'all want to say anything about that with the bank?
I would say that, not to plug for us, but one thing about that is a local bank in general, that when you call and you need to talk to somebody or if there's something about it, then they're in Denton, you can go down and talk to them if you need to. If it's a national bank, it might be a little bit harder to know you're getting to somebody who can not look at your account. Of course, they can pull that up in the computer, but to get response. But yeah,
To get that one-on-one help that you're
Right.
really needing.
Right.
And I encourage that as well, because I've actually had that happen to me. So I do encourage about the alerts and setting the transaction thing up, and that can come to your phone. So it'll trigger you if you like to look at your account on your desktop, then it'll trigger you to go check everything.
And that's a great
good thing.
protection for card skimmers, like gas pumps. Has everyone in here kind of heard what skimmers are and know what they are pretty much? So,
Is there a way to detect them?
yeah, yes and no. They've gotten more advanced like every other scam out there before, and you can still do this because it still might work, but if you pull on the card reader, if it's got a typical old school skimmer on it, it can pop off. But a lot of them have started actually installing them inside of the gas pumps, so that doesn't even matter. I think Denton Police Department recently discovered this. I think it was in a news article a while back, but there's no guarantee that you won't get skimmed. But having the notifications is a great safeguard. Because I've actually had my card skimmed twice, and within 2 or 3 fraudulent spendings, I immediately received a text from my bank saying, did you make these purchases in Louisiana? I obviously did not. And if I hit no, it immediately canceled that card, sent me a new one, and reimbursed me for the fraudulent transactions. Because it'll send you, if you say no, it'll send you into the app and have you review all your transactions. So that notification feature, like Deputy Mark was saying, is really useful because it helps you detect very rapidly fraudulent activity on your bank accounts. So even if you like to use your computer more often, it's helpful to have that notification system. So the sooner you find out, the better. Because time is of the essence, kind of with scammers, because you want to get that detected as soon as possible. And then robocalls, those are very obnoxious and annoying. Getting robocalls from the auto warranty services division and whatever scam they're trying to do. You can call this number and be put on a do not call list, and it'll typically block most robocalls. So if you get robocalls a lot, this might be something that interests you. I don't believe it costs anything, but you can look into it, robocalls, and it'll kind of like filter your calls to determine if it's a robocall or not, and it's just kind of one less aggravation you have to deal with. Another thing, one specific scam I wanted to touch on is, I believe there are some news articles on it, but the law enforcement officer calling you saying you have a warrant for your arrest. We need you to pay us $500 to get this taken care of. That is a scam. We do not, if someone has a warrant, we don't call them and ask them for money. That's called bribery. We cannot do that. That's a big no-no. And additionally, if you do have the warrant and we're trying to arrest you, we're not going to say, hey, this is your courtesy call that we're coming to get you. If you want to get a head start to Mexico. We don't do that. That's not us. That is a scam. And someone actually used my name and said they were Captain Gilbert with the Denton County Sheriff's Office. So they'll actually call and claim to be legitimate people who work at the agency because you can go online and look up basic employee information. Not my personal information, but you can see what my basic salary is just using Google. And you can pull up employee directories just on Google and say, I'll be Deputy Martin. This Deputy Martin with the Sheriff's Office, we have a warrant. And then you're going to Google Deputy Martin, Denton County Sheriff's Office. It's going to take you to that same directory and like, oh, this is a legitimate person at the Sheriff's Office, making it seem more legit. And it's not just specific to our agency. People claim to be with federal agencies, and they'll claim they're federal agent such and such, and you'll look up that person, and it's a real federal agent by that name. But it's not that same person. They just looked up his name in an employee directory to try and seem more legitimate. Another dead giveaway is if they're telling you I'm Deputy Gilbert with the Sheriff's Office, and my badge number is 31C76MNX 77, some long badge number like that. It's bogus. My badge number is 3955. They're usually 3 or 4 digits long. They're not 9 digits with letters and numbers mixed in. If they're giving you a long badge number like that, it's a scam. That's not a legitimate badge number, but they'll try to do that to appear more legitimate. So just something to be aware of. I think I have a video on that I'd like to go ahead and show real quick. But I wanted to go over that specifically because this has been happening a lot more often.
Well, don't believe everything that you see on your caller ID, even if it says police are on the line. Crystal Cruz on a clever new phone scam that threatens to lock you up unless you pay up.
I am, sir. And it was this guy told me that this is the Hemet Police Department.
Myra Navarro got a call Wednesday from what looked like Hemet Police. Their number popped up on caller ID, and this call, important.
You don't understand how serious this is. You're going to jail tomorrow. And I was like crying, oh money, sensitive. My kids were crying with me, so.
The caller claimed Myra owed money, knew her address, and said she was going to be arrested. She was given a Washington, D.C. number to call and pay $1,800 to avoid jail.
Just thinking, well, I'm going to go to jail. And I was telling my husband, I'm going to the police right now. I was like scared for my kids. Were they going to see me in jail? How's the process going to be?
Police told Myra this was a scam, an app possibly used to change the suspect's caller ID to Hemet Police Department's number, making the call appear legit.
I don't take calls from no one, even the police department.
Well, in case you ever get a call like that, remember, even if the number looks legitimate, police would never call you demanding money.
Try this strange 10-second technique tonight to reverse type 2 diabetes.
I can't get that. Yeah, that might be a scam. That was the final test. Good job. But I wanted to go over that because that's been happening a lot more. And one surefire way, even if you're not convinced, you're not 100% sure it's a scam one way or the other, just call the agency directly. If they're claiming to be a federal agent, call the regional field office for whatever federal agency that is. If they're claiming they're with the FBI, look up the Dallas FBI, area center out in the Dallas Metroplex area and call them directly and verify that, because they might give you a bogus report number too, and you can reference that number and go, no, this is a scam. This isn't something we're actually doing. IRS scams have been happening too. Where it kind of follows the same pattern. They say you owe taxes, they give you badge numbers and such.
Tell them about the sheriff's office and the jury and all of that.
Oh,
scams
yeah,
that have been going on.
yeah, there's another
concerning the
one,
sheriff's
if
office.
if you miss like jury duty, they'll try to say you missed jury duty, and there's a warrant out for your arrest. You have to, I think, pay a fine or fee or something, that's also a scam.
And you have to go to Kroger's and get these
Yep.
gift cards
Yep.
to send to jury services. And there was a lady that showed up at our agency and $12,000 she was scammed out of because she was afraid they were gonna take her to jail. And it used the name of one of our sergeants who is over warrants. His name is Matt Arnold. And they use his name a lot, trying to scam people. And she was like, I took out a second mortgage, like I don't have any more money, I'm a single mom, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And very intelligent woman, but she just assumed because of the calls and the very demanding way that they were asking money, and we're like, we don't charge anybody for jury services. The only thing that a judge can do if you don't report is a judge can, you know, he has a procedure he does with people that don't show up for jury service, but I think in Denton County, we've only had one time a judge had to lock somebody up for not being compliant. So we don't do that. So that's a big deal that we've had issues with, and I know the sheriff's office has put out a lot of press releases about it, so.
Yep. So be aware of that, and one thing I want y'all to always remember is if someone's requesting payment in the form of gift cards, I'd be willing to wager that 100% of the time that's a scam. No legitimate business or entity, to my knowledge, accepts gift cards unless they're their own gift cards or like those Visa gift cards. Do y'all take payment in gift cards? Exactly. It's a scam. If they're wanting you to buy gift cards and take pictures of them and send it to them, it's a scam 100% of the time. And I had a gentleman who got scammed through that method, and he was scammed out of over $30,000 worth of gift cards that he sent the scammer. So that is always an indicator it's a scam. Did you have a question, sir? No? Okay, my apologies. I thought you raised your hand. So, yes, ma'am.
So if you had a warrant for someone's arrest, wouldn't you go to their home?
Typically, yeah. I mean, it depends.
All the photos without having a warrant for their arrest.
Well, there are times, like the constable's office, that we would call, because I used to be a constable, a deputy constable, but we would call and say, hey, you owe this much money to the court because of your fines. We don't want to arrest you. We want you just to pay the fine and be done with this. So we do call and communicate with people who have warrants, encouraging them to either pay the warrant to that JP court or pay to the district courts or county courts, but we're never going to tell them to pay us personally. And then we do encourage people to turn themselves in. If you're not able to pay the fines to the court, you need to turn yourself in to the Denton County Jail. So sometimes we do make those phone calls, and our warrant deputies do make the phone calls concerning to try to contact people with open warrants to get it resolved, because it always looks better on the subject's part if they're turning themselves in, if they're taking care of their issue, instead of a deputy having to go out and effect an arrest. So the court does give leniency for turning yourself in versus us having to go pick you up. So
it just depends on the nature of the warrant. If it's a violent felony, we're probably not going to tell you.
well, yeah, we're not.
Probably do a search warrant for you, kick in the door kind of thing. If it's a violent thing, but if it's like a traffic ticket, we're probably not even going to come after you that much. So, I mean, it just depends on what it is. But typically, if they're asking for some sort of money to get this taken care of, that doesn't ever happen. We're either if we're calling you, we're trying to talk to you to turn yourself in. It has happened before where I've tried to do warrant services on individuals. We've tried several times. I talked to them like, hey, you know why I'm calling. Let's get this taken care of. You need to turn yourself in. Try to figure out a way to get them to peacefully come in. But we're not going to call you and say you're wanted, you need to pay us. That just doesn't happen. So, and if you're unsure, you can always just come in and talk to us directly, and we can clear that up for you really quick. So, any other questions? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. You're with the county.
Yes, ma'am.
So we call you instead of the Denton police?
No, this is actually City of Denton, so it's technically the Denton Police Department's jurisdiction. We also have jurisdiction because it's in Denton County. We have jurisdiction anywhere in Denton County, but our primary responsibilities are the areas of the county that are outside of corporate city limits. This falls under City of Denton. So Denton Police Department would be your reporting agency to contact. But if you have a question or concern about like a scam or something, you can call us as well. I can try to answer your question. I wouldn't mind doing that at all. But typically, if it is determined there's a criminal offense, I'm probably going to refer you to them for further action from that point on, because it's their jurisdiction and duty and responsibility. So, yes, sir.
When you do a fraud report, where does it go from there?
So that's typically for most agencies, it's going to go to their investigators. For us, it goes to our criminal investigations division. And we have certain investigators that specialize in fraud crimes, and they'll investigate it and try to determine if, where this person is, if it's something they can solve. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of times it's international, so it can kind of get a little more into the gray area. So I can't guarantee they all get solved, but at the very least, it'll be investigated. And typically for banks, a lot of banks, I think, require a police report when there's events of fraud. Is that a correct assumption? Or
Case by case, I think.
Case by case, okay. But yeah, case by case basis, typically it's better to just get it reported, because it is a criminal offense. It's depending on how the money has been stolen or the bank information has been used. It's going to be a felony, at least fraudulent possession or use of
It'd be nice if the
identity.
news media would say once in a while, we caught somebody, we prosecuted them, but you never hear it, never hear it.
Yeah, and I've never been a fraud investigator, so I can't say for certain what the statistics are on that, but I can tell you from my experience on patrol, it has happened. There was an incident where a woman went to a Pizza Hut, and the person at the window stole her credit card information and used it, and that was able to be determined fraudulent possession or use of identified information. So more isolated events are obviously more easy to investigate, because you can pull up the location the card was used, what time it was used, if it was used in an ATM to withdraw money, which typically have cameras. So there are ways of investigating it, even if it's happening in different various states. Just internationally is where it gets a little more tricky, because you're going into different countries and
Cooperation.
yeah, then at that point it's way above my pay grade. So. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard about people that sound like banks texting you? I
Yes.
got a text from something called M&T, which I know is a bank in New York.
Yes.
And it was asking me to confirm that I spent $380 some at Home Depot.
It's a scam.
And I was to type yes or Y if it was my charge, and if not, I was to go into this long link.
Just
And
ignore
I
it.
deleted it.
Good. Yeah, I got a text from Chase Bank a few weeks ago. I've never banked with Chase. That's another predominant scam to be aware of, is text from banks. Did you make this
If you go into the
transaction?
link, do they then just get information on you somehow?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what would happen, but typically it'll download malware. They might gain remote access to your device to access your information. It could put a virus on your device. Nothing good happens when you click on it. I can certainly say that. But yeah, if you get a text from a bank and you've never banked with that bank, that's a very common scam that's going around. Yes, ma'am.
I got a text from my bank
Mm-hmm.
saying that somebody, they had a charge on my, they had the last 4 digits of my credit card
Mm-hmm.
or debit card one. It was a debit card. And so I called the bank
Mm-hmm.
instead of responding to that. No, I responded to that. give them a whole credit card number, which I did not do. They said they could they connected me to the bank. And of course, you're confused when this is going on anyway.
Sure.
So I thought, they wanted my credit card number from the bank then. And I said, no, I'll call my bank. I called the bank and it was not them. So is there a way they can get just the last 4 digits of your
credit card? Yeah, typically you can get that on the receipt. Most receipts are going to have the last 4 digits, so it's very easy to get. It's not a big deal if they do. It's the whole credit card number. The main one's the CVC number on the back, the security code, that 3-digit one. That's the one that is really going to compromise your card potentially. But yeah, the last 4 digits, that's not a big deal. And again, if you do get a text from a bank and that happens to be the same bank you have an account with, and you're unsure, terminate that call and call your bank directly. Always.
They cancel my card and replace it.
Yeah, so always call the bank directly yourself if you're unsure. That's why I always recommend the applications and whatnot, because that's one way you can quickly determine, oh, you're saying I have fraudulent spending on my credit card. Let me check my app, check your statement. Nope, nothing suspicious going on, it's a scam. So that's a very quick way to fact check that, but always call your bank directly if you get any text notification from like a bank, because that's a lot of ways that they'll try to seem legitimate, like it's your bank, and then they'll actually get your full credit card number and whatever personal information they can try to steal as well.
So I'm real careful about the receipts. Some people just, wad them up and leave them on a table when you're at a restaurant or anything like that. Whatever receipt that has anything printed out with the last 4 digits of your card number and has your name on it, you need to probably take that with you and shred it when you get home and put it in the garbage that way. I wouldn't leave any information out for the public. My husband says I'm ridiculous about it, but even at gas stations, I make sure I stay there, I get my receipt, I put it in my purse, and when I get home, I take all my receipts out and I shred them if I don't need to keep them. So just be cognizant of that, because you never know, trash is open, anybody can go through the trash. When you put your trash on the curb, it's open, somebody can go through your trash and take things out of your trash. A lot of people don't realize that, but they can. So I have a shredder at home, and I shred anything that has my personal information, account numbers, any bank statements, anything like that. I just shred it or burn it in the fire.
Definitely get a shredder, especially for any medical related correspondences in the mail. Even things like going to the emergency room or a doctor's office and getting a little wristband, shred that too. That typically has your social or your date of birth on it. So always be very cautious how you dispose of documents containing your personal information. Shredding and burning are typically the 2 best ways to do it. But keep in mind, once your trash is collected, you have little to no control what happens to it after that. I mean, it could go to the dump, it could fly out of the truck, and someone else could look at it. So it's best just to destroy it while it's in your control to do so. Did you have a question?
Well, yeah, I bought one of those ink block stamps. Are they okay to use as far as not shredding maybe, but is there a way they can
is it like whiteout or?
No, it's a stamp, and it has different designs. So when you stamp it over the printed article, when you hold it up to light and stuff, you should not be able to read anything that's coming through there.
Yeah, that's probably good. Familiar with that? I mean, that's great. If you have a shredder, I'd say just shred it too. Why just make it as hard as possible? No, as far as I'm aware of, that seems like a very effective method. Yes, ma'am.
This falls under these categories, but that thing I keep seeing on TV about your cars. LifeLock or something else, outright.
Yep. Those are private businesses, but they help protect your information. Those are useful. Those can be very useful in protecting your information, or if your information's been compromised, kind of helping you out. giving you notifications when things happen in your name. I don't want to have to be a little bit careful. I can't be a salesman for private companies under official capacity, but those are certainly things you can look into to better safeguard your assets and personal information.
But doesn't the county have all of that? It's all registered with the county, nobody can steal all that from the county.
What do you mean by registered, if you're registered with the county?
Your home, that you have, where your property taxes and all that. It's all-
If you're requesting that to not be disclosed for public knowledge, right? Is that what you're talking about? Like somebody can look up your resident, but it doesn't say who the property owns to?
They have to put who they are.
Yes.
And that's just not public information.
If you set it up that way, otherwise it is. But if you request it not to be, and to be blocked, like law enforcement, we can request it so people can't find out if they get a grudge on us or something, then we can request that to happen. So, but yeah, that's something you have to request on your end and work with the tax office if you don't want your information public. So,
The main concern with scamming though is them using your personal information to buy a house in your name that you never purchased or anything, and just essentially ruining your life with that.
So like I had happen, we were going to buy a home, and then I had a ding on my credit, and I'm like, how do I have a ding on my credit? Well, somebody didn't pay the cable company. It was actually a satellite company for services, and it was opened up in my name, and I'm like, we don't even have satellite. We live in Crum, we have cable. So I had to do some digging. Well, it was a family member who used my name, my social security number, and opened up his account and didn't pay it. So I had to prove all that up with the credit people and get all that fixed, and then have a very direct conversation with a family member. So sometimes you don't even know things are happening or how they got the information. So I think that's why, we just have to, in this day and time and the way everything is, we have to be very guarded with.
Bringing up the point you made with your address and whatnot through the tax office, that's also been another way people begin to scam. I've been getting several calls actually from someone claiming to be with some sort of mortgage adjustment company, trying to get you a lower rate. And you're like, well, you sent in a request via mail for our services. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you talking about? Like, well, you live at such and such address, right? And they're going to say your address because you can obtain that from the tax office. So that's also another thing to be aware of, is those kind of scams too. They'll mention your address or your name to sound legitimate, but they're trying to get your information.
And he loves getting those calls because he messes with them so badly.
My favorite one is the auto warranty division. I'm like, well, with what company? We're just an auto warranty division. Like a federal agency? Like, no, just the auto warranty division. Tell them I have a Ford Tahoe.
Yeah, your warranty is it's just about ready to expire. Your car is like 20 years old.
Yeah. That's a scam. Yeah. But you know what? I consider it a public service messing with them, because the longer I'm keeping them busy, the less time they're trying to scam other people. So.
Do you want to go to our next?
Sure. Yeah. Are we doing good on time, by the way?
You're good.
Okay. Excellent. So we'll move on to our next presentation, kind of talking about our division, and then we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Okay. So, as Captain Hibos mentioned earlier, we are the Community Relations Unit at the Denton County Sheriff's Office. And part of our duties, as well as interacting with the public, giving presentations and doing events, is running several of our programs. And we'll kind of go over each one. So the first one I want to go over is our Volunteers in Police Service, VIPS. I'm the program coordinator behind that, and it consists of about 20 volunteers right now who volunteer their free time to help us out with whatever we're needing, certain events, helping us on our programs, role-playing for active shooter training for our deputies, a variety of different things. They'll help us with fingerprinting, records retention, essentially doing things that we would typically use paid employees to do, but they're doing it for free. And that's a huge asset to us, and I'll kind of go over the cost benefit, what they're actually helping us do in terms of money, what they're saving the county and you as taxpayers. We'll kind of get into that as well. But one of the prerequisites for being a volunteer in full service is going through our Citizens Academy. I'm also the program coordinator for that. It's a 12-week program. We have them starting September 12th if anyone's interested. And you'll go over a variety of different things. You'll get a tour of our jail. You'll actually get to go inside the jail in the secure area. You'll be with officers and myself, so don't worry. We're not just going to open the door and say, have fun. But it'll be an interesting perspective. You'll get to use our use of force simulator if you'd like, or at least get to see it used if you don't feel comfortable using it. You'll get our use of force simulator. It's like a screen that plays a real world scenario, like you're watching a movie, but you're interacting with it, and you have a fake guns, fake taser, and I can actually change what's going on based on how you're handling the situation. So you get to use that if you want it. Pretty fun, but it's really interesting to kind of use it to get that perspective from the officer's position, being in a split-second decision. So you'll get that vantage point, that really unique opportunity that doesn't happen for a lot of people, and you can kind of see why we do some of the things we do, why we might say some of the things we do. So it's great for transparency with the public, so y'all can kind of get an understanding of being in our boots, and we can try to answer your questions or concerns in regards to use of force and such. But you also, I'm sorry?
That should be required.
It should be. Well, we like offering that. I think it's great. You're only as useful to your community as they allow you to be, and that comes through good transparency and public relations with the people you serve. And I think at Denton County we do pretty well at that, I feel like. But in addition to that, you'll get to listen to patrol deputies, our specialized units, narcotics, warrants. You'll get to see our canine, you get to see our drones. So it's a really neat program where you get a lot of insider knowledge of how we operate, what we do. And overall, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from everyone who's attended it. And then this is the Volunteer Police Services. That's an opportunity that you're eligible for after that if you want to continue kind of being involved with the sheriff's office and getting exposure to the law enforcement world.
So we do want you to go through the academy, so you have that background knowledge of the sheriff's office before you become a volunteer.
Yeah, it's kind of like the academy for the volunteers. Yeah. But it's only once a week. It's Monday evenings. It's for 2.5 hours. And we're not going to have you do anything strenuous. It's not like boot camp and stuff. Don't worry. But it gives you a good, like Deputy Mark said, an overview of the sheriff's office, so you become familiar with the agency before you volunteer and essentially work with us. So that's just the main requisite. So these are currently some things that our volunteers help us out with, community or school events, our juvenile impact program, crime prevention support neighborhood watch. They'll help us with records and data entry and data disposal. They've been super helpful in that area. We have records dating all the way back to the early 2000s that still need to be filed, and they've helped us catch up very quickly. Fingerprinting services, they help us provide that to the public. Not for people who are arrested, but for people trying to get jobs like a daycare or get their tax stamp maybe, or gun licenses. So, yes, sir.
How big a role is DNA playing in your job right now? Are you seeing that evolve more and more?
Yeah. Could I come back to that though?
Sure.
That's kind of a different topic, but yes, it has.
Okay.
And I'd be happy
More on the criminal side.
Yeah, but I'd be happy to address that once we kind of get through that. That's all right if I may. So, and then they help us out with our crossing guards, help us out with our explorers, role playing and such. Our women's empowerment program, Crime Stoppers, and they have monthly training. So those are just a few examples of what our volunteers do for us and how they help us out. So like I said, doing things like this, community events, setting up booths, National Night Out's a big one that we typically do in October. These are examples of some of what our volunteers look like in uniform. Got Jerry here, he's one of our Betty, great volunteers, and they come with us to whatever we need if they're available and they want to help us out at different community events, parades as well. They'll ride along with us in parades too, so that's an opportunity that's available to them. Then we have our Juvenile Impact Program. I'll let Deputy Martin explain this. She's the coordinator.
So Juvenile Impact has been with the Sheriff's Office for over 25 years. It's a service that is free that the Sheriff's report that supports juveniles that are engaging in delinquent conduct. So a lot of the courts in the schools, if they're truant, if their conduct is out of control on campus, the court, the juvenile judge, or like Louisville Municipal Court, they can refer these kids to come through our impact program. And it's a very structured program. I speak very plain language with them, and we talk about their behaviors, their choices, our volunteers that work with them. Jerry, the gentleman he just showed you, looking at him, you would never think back in the day he stole a whole lot of cars, and he was good at it. But he got arrested, went to jail, and the judge said, you can go to the Vietnam War or you can go to prison. And he chose the Army. And so totally changed his life. And he's dedicated his life to working with young people to try to get them to open up, talk about what's going on with them, and be an impact in their life. So this program tries to redirect that behavior, and we show them pictures about the jail, what it's like to be held in juvenile detention, and we use it as a deterrent. And then we communicate back to the courts, and we communicate back to CPS, gives us a lot of referrals. Our program requires parents to come along with the children, because as we all know, sometimes parents are the problem, and that's why the behavior is with the child. So we make that a condition. If you come to this program, parents are required to come with them. And then while the volunteers are working with the children, I'm working with the parents, discussing the law, what's expected by them, by the juvenile code, family code, the penal code. We talk about discipline and effective discipline versus reactive discipline, and a lot of different things like that. So if we see, the volunteers have gone to a different training that the Sheriff's Office, that I see, and I'm like, hey, I want y'all to go to this program. Then they get training to see red flags, behaviors for, we call it, it's like when we see enough behaviors in a child that they're going to be high risk for human trafficking. And so we try to refer them to the Children's Advocacy Center, so the family can get resources and counseling and help, because it's such a high risk the child may end up being. So not only do we try to deter the behavior and give parents tools, but we also try to mesh them with viable resources within the county to help them be successful, the parents be successful, and the children be successful. So when COVID happened, before COVID happened, we would have, our number was 20. We have it once a month, and we would have 20 kids in the program. But post-COVID, our number is 15, and right now we're getting about 9 to 10 kids that will sign up, and then maybe 6 or 7 will show up with the parents. But it gives us a lot of good one-on-one time with the kiddos and their parents, and then we refer, if a child completed it successfully, we refer it back to the courts that they did, and if they got kicked out that night, we refer that back to the courts, or if the parent got mad and pulled a child and they left, we refer that back to the courts or whoever referred them to the program. But it is a free tool, and it has been shown to be effective. We've so far, since I've been doing the program the last 4 years, we've caught 2 girls that were being sexually trafficked, and Denton PD is working those cases through the prosecution. And we're talking a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. So it's a very effective program.
I'm just a little confused. You say is it you're concerned that they're going to run away and then
No,
get
these
involved in
children-
trafficking or?
No, these children that we're dealing with
Okay.
are engaging in delinquent conduct
Uh-huh.
or criminal conduct.
Okay.
So they're already running away.
Okay.
They've run away 8 times and their mama's had it. And, you know, you're listening to a 45-minute conversation of what all this kid's been doing. Our CPS was called because they felt somebody at school felt like a parent was abusing them, to only found out it's not a parent abusing them. Other things are going on, you know, that type of thing that's causing the at-risk behavior. So by the time they get to us, a lot of things have already happened. And so in schools, refer them. We have counselors, teachers, anybody can refer a child to us. But I make contact with the parent, and because the parent has to willfully want to participate in the program. And if they don't want to, after talking to me about what the program looks like, then nobody can make them come unless a judge court orders them. And we do get court orders from the juvenile judge and from municipality judge saying, you will go attend this, or your child's going to JJAP. So, that's that program.
And I pretty much already talked about this. Our volunteers do this for us, but we also provide public fingerprinting services. If there isn't a volunteer available to help us, we provide those services to the community, so that falls under our responsibilities as well. And then our Explorers Post.
So currently, right now, I'm the lead on that temporarily because this guy right here, he's a quitter, and he went to get promoted as a sergeant, and now he's the quartermaster for our agency, which means he's responsible for all equipment, uniforms that are issued to employees. So he has a huge job. He used to be the lead of this, and so I've taken it over until we hire a new person. But the Explorers program, the program we're using is through the Boy Scouts of America, and it's for children ages 14 to 21 years of age who are interested in the career path of law enforcement. And so they'll come every Tuesday night from 6 o'clock until 8:30, and we'll work with them about what's the penal code, traffic offenses, report writing, whatever we learn in the academy, we scale it down to their level, and they start learning about it. They have duty belts, they have uniforms, as you can see. They go work events with us. This weekend, there was like 3 or 4 of them that worked the Back to Blue car wash that was raising money for some officers. They went and worked that all Saturday, volunteering their time for community service. So we engage them in law enforcement activities throughout the county, and we try to do field trips, which is enriched learning, like we work with DPS. They come, and just anything that will encourage them in a career path or help them to later become a better citizen. So that's our goal with that. But we have a great group of kids. They have a lot of energy, and these are the kids that are like in AP classes. Like these are the rock star kids that are really wanting to learn, and because they're wanting a career in that. And so we try to help them. One of our guys who was the corporal of the group, Tony, I think he's right here. He's in the Marine Corps now. He graduated and now he's in the Marine Corps. And then one of our other fellows just graduated and moved to Arkansas to go to college. So, you know, you get connected, really connected with them. But it's a great program, and it's one of the sheriff's programs that he started since he's been in office. So this is really his baby. And so it's been a lot of fun to do.
And then this is the other program that I took over. Someone's empowerment program, so it's a free self-defense course that we provide to women in Denton County. It's in 2 phases right now. Phase 1 and 2. Phase 2 is more advanced hands-on training. That's done at a martial arts gym. These are some of our instructors here that help us out. She's actually one of our volunteers in police service too. She's pretty much helped create the program from the ground up. She's done a lot of work on it, and she helps us out regularly. But this is one of our more well-known and programs that's gotten a lot of participation. We recently just trained over 1,000 women in Denton County in this program, teaching them basic self-defense tactics to defend themselves or at least disengage in dangerous situations to prevent injury. So it's been a very successful program. I believe that Sheriff Murphy started this program.
Yes.
I believe he did.
In the first term.
Yep. In his first term as sheriff, this is another program that he started.
How often do you do this?
This is once a month. It's typically the 3rd Saturday of the month. Right now, we're still kind of working out the details on this, but it seems like we've got an alternating phase 1 and then a phase 2 class. Our phase 2 is a lot smaller because it's in the smaller martial arts gym. But typically, we get anywhere from 40 to 60 ladies in our phase 1 class, which we typically do at the main courthouse in Denton. But typically it's once a month, 3rd Saturday of the month. Time can vary.
Now, I attended this in Flower Mound. They had Flower Mound.
Yes.
It was really awesome. It is
Good.
really strenuous.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's awesome. But yeah, it used to be mobile. We used to go around different locations. I believe we've got more centralized now at the courthouse. It's just easier for coordinating everything and getting everything there. So
That's good.
sounds good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you liked it. So shoot me an email if you want to do phase 2 if you haven't already.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
You let me know, all right?
Is it only one day?
Yeah, each one is like, the first one is about 3 hours roughly. It consists of a PowerPoint presentation, kind of going over some tactics, some statistics and different things. And then the second portion consists of hands-on training like striking, kicking, things like that. And instructors are holding a bag for you so you can get more hands-on practice. And then phase 2 is about 3 hours, and it's just all of the hands-on tactics and training. It's just striking, different things you're going to learn. You learn a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually, so that's a lot more advanced. But yes, each one's about 3-hour classes. But it teaches you the basics. You're not by any means going to be a martial arts master by the end of it. I'm sorry, I would not recommend being on UFC Ultimate Fighter after attending this class. But you will learn the basics to defend yourself and evade dangerous situations and protect yourself, which is the main goal.
And situational awareness.
Yes.
They cover a lot of situational
Yes.
awareness and
It's
paying
decreased.
attention to your surroundings.
It's decreasing your chances of becoming a victim.
Yes.
I like to think of it as a seatbelt. It's increasing your odds of survival. So. Then
Crime Stoppers. So I am the coordinator of Denton County Crime Stoppers, and I've done that for about the last 4 years. So Crime Stoppers is a program that is free to the citizens of Denton County. It is a way to report crimes or to report anything anonymously because a lot of people are afraid to report things out of fear of having to testify or getting super involved into whatever the issue might be. So Crime Stoppers started in Albuquerque, New Mexico back in the 70s because of an investigator. A young boy was killed that was working overnight at a gas station, and he was engaged and about to graduate college, and his whole life ahead of him, and he was filling in to work for a friend who needed a night off to participate in a family event. And the investigator was like, how busy the intersection was there in Albuquerque. He was like, I know somebody saw this. So he went to the PD and he asked his bosses, can we front $1,000 and put a reward out there because I know somebody had to see something. And he made a promise to the mother that he was going to do everything he could. And he had only been a police officer, the investigator, for 3 years, and he was promoted to investigations. He was a young patrol officer in his early 20s, and but he was dedicated to thinking outside the box and getting this person in custody that just flat out, murdered this young man. And so that's how Crime Stoppers got started. And after they posted the reward and they joined with the news media, it just took off, and they started getting phone calls. And they kept the gentleman anonymous, and that's how Crime Stoppers was born. And since that time, it's nationwide, it's in other countries, it's in Canada, and for Denton County Crime Stoppers, it came to Texas in the 80s, and then back in about, I think it was 85, a group of citizens in Louisville, the city of Louisville, came together, and because of what was, not Louisville, I'm sorry, Little Elm, and because of what was happening, they started Crime Stoppers of Denton County. And it stayed in Little Elm for a little bit, and then it moved to the sheriff's office, and it's been at the sheriff's office for over 20 years. We've been here, Crime Stoppers has been here in Denton County. I think this is our 33rd year. So it's been here for a while. It's a very effective tool for investigators, and part of my job is, besides just entering the tips and making sure the tips go to the right places, and making sure I'm communicating clearly with the board of directors, and that we process the reward money correctly, and our tips are getting paid out. But I also train the officers on how to use the P3 tip system and how to effectively use it, so the witness, the tipster, doesn't ever have to be disclosed in court. So that's a lot of my job that I do, is training with officers and working with them. And then I go a lot of places and speak about Crime Stoppers and how to use it for citizens. So we do have some information out here. Crime Stoppers is always looking for great board members. If you're interested in being active in the community and you would like to be a part of something, we're always looking for wonderful board members. So if you have any interest in that, don't hesitate to give me a call.
I'd also like to point out, these are some of our volunteers here. They also help out with Crime Stoppers. So.
Now, Betty is our rock star.
Mm-hmm.
She is actually the treasurer. She's on our Crime Stoppers board, and I recruited Betty. She's 85 years old, and she outworks me. She works at Denton PD. She volunteers almost 20 hours a week at our place. I mean, it's crazy all the stuff she does. But she is actually our treasurer for Crime Stoppers, and our numbers have never looked so good since she took over. So
she does a fantastic job.
Yeah, she really does.
This is a little graph I put together in regards to our VIPS program, or volunteer police service. I like to use, money talks. So I like to articulate the value of the program, what they're saving us, what they're saving as taxpayers. So these are just over the last few years since 2017, kind of showing us the program goes, or how it's grown over the years. Unfortunately, like everything else in 2020, it got rained a little bit, so we had to restart in 2021. But I made this based off of participation hours, and then converting the hours into different pay scales, depending on depending on their duties. So if they're helping out our criminal investigations division, I would convert that to hourly pay rate of investigators, because we're using them instead of paid employees. Or if they're helping us with fingerprinting, I used our pay scale, because if it wasn't for them, myself or Deputy Martin, we would be doing it. So this just kind of illustrates how much money they're saving by helping us out instead of paid employees doing what they're doing. So as you can see, in 2019 alone, they saved over $31,000 of your taxpayer dollars. And the total over the years since 2017, they've saved almost $60,000 since 2017 of your taxpayer dollars, just in free labor helping us out of the kindness of their hearts. So a very valuable program that we're very, very proud of. And we're growing again since 2020. We've been doing a lot better. As a matter of fact, I'm still waiting to update the hours for June, but we've already surpassed all of 2021 just so far this year.
We have out of the last academy, he recruited several, and we have some that are up there at least 4 hours almost every day of the week. It is crazy how much help they've been. It's kind of like once they found out, oh, there's a need, and I can come do this, and we can hurry this process and get it done, like they're on it. It's just like they show up and they're attacking it to try to get it done. So
I got more volunteers on the way to this next academy that have expressed interest in this program. If any of you are interested, we'd be happy to have you. Let's just get you signed up for the Citizen Academy. We got the applications here. If you're interested, it's a great program. I got a really good group of guys and gals that help me out, and it's a very enjoyable program for them. They get to meet the commissioners quite often at different events, high political people. It's a good experience for them. Yes, sir.
And you had 12 sessions for the academy?
Yes, sir. It's 12 sessions. It's on Monday nights for about 2.5 hours.
What happens if you miss one?
That's okay. We allow up to 2 absences.
Okay.
If you miss any more, generally it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but if you're just missing more than 2, we're probably going to reserve you a spot for the next academy in the spring. Like, hey, this might work out better for your schedule. Because we want to encourage participation. We don't want to have too many people going that only show up to like 2 or 3 classes out of the 12 weeks. So we want to have some amount of structure, but we try to be lenient where we can, we understand. But certainly if it just isn't working for your schedule, we are more than happy to get you the next academy and reserve your spot. So that's not an issue at all. So, this was the gentleman we were talking about, the quitter, who's now
quitter.
So disregard his information, please. But is there any questions about anything we talked about?
When did you say the next academy starts?
September 12th will be the next start date, I believe. I'm still finalizing the schedule a little bit. I have gotten quite a few applications so far. So if you're interested, please be sure to give me your application soon before we hit our capacity. But if not, worst case scenario, I can get you in the spring academy easily if you're still interested. And then you mentioned about forensics earlier.
Yeah.
Did you still have a question on that?
the DNA.
Yes, I saw it's on 10, I believe it was, YouTube. DNA was found at the crime scene. They trace it back to this guy's ancestors, like grandkids or something like that. Were able to narrow it down to the bad guy and catch it. And it took them years to do it, but they, it went back that distance.
I believe they did that with Jack the Ripper as well. And I don't want to paraphrase or say for certain, but I did read a news article. I could try to find it if anyone was interested, but they mentioned they believe they found out who Jack the Ripper was by testing a descendant, one of the prime suspect's descendants. They tested his DNA, and it was a match for DNA found at a crime scene. So they believe that they discovered the identity of Jack the Ripper through DNA. So yeah, it's incredible. Because even as time progresses, just to give you an example, for trying to find blood spatter and blood stains and whatnot, we use an agent called Blue Star. And you can turn off the lights, it's kind of like a black light sort of deal, and you put on glasses and you can see the blood stain and the blood pattern, even if it's been washed with bleach. It's still there. And one question that they had is, well, how old can the blood be until we can't detect it anymore? So they went to an old house that was a field hospital in the American Civil War, and they sprayed that stuff on the floor, and they were able to detect blood in between the cracks from Civil War soldiers.
Now, has this information, has this technology filtered down to the county yet?
Yes, we have I would say two of the best forensic investigators in the United States. One of them teaches nationally. I believe they're the only two in all of Denton County that can positively identify people via their fingerprints. When we identify someone's fingerprints, we don't have a computer that, pops up a picture, this is this person's fingerprint. It narrows it down on the pattern, but they have to themselves analyze and determine the identity of someone's fingerprints. And
It's a use of markers. There's so many markers they have to get to confirm it, and it's very rigorous.
Yeah.
And that's why they're the only two passing all those classes and everything that you have to do, so.
I don't know if it's hard to see or not, but the markers are made up on different pattern developments, deltas, whorls, loops, cul-de-sacs, where like right here where it ends. Those are specific identifying marks, and it just generates different points of interest, and then they have to analyze that and positively identify it to someone's specific fingerprint. And that's how they identify it. And they're the only two in Denton County that can do it, where it can be municipal court. And they have, I honestly would strongly think, if anyone's interested in the narcotics, or I'm sorry, not the narcotics field, the forensics field, if you attend our Citizen Academy,
You'll meet them.
And they'll actually do a presentation on everything that I'm talking about, and it is absolutely incredible. And you're gonna your mind is gonna be blown, like you can't get away with anything. But one thing that they mentioned, like how forensics has impacted. Yes. Did someone have a question? I'm sorry, I thought I heard someone else.
It is fascinating.
But yeah, but one way they've impacted criminal justice is in investigations is they don't necessarily tell you exactly what happened. They tell you this could not have happened. So if a suspect is telling a lie, they're going to say there is no way that could have happened based on this evidence, based on this blood spatter, based on whatever the evidence may be. They're going to be able to determine that could not have happened. There's no way. Using probably millions of different methods. So it's really fascinating. If you'd like to hear more, I strongly encourage you to come to our Citizen Academy to hear them speak. And it's pretty incredible stuff.
Deputy Martin, Pat Sherman, who's going to